Now we can move on to the third phase of the talk, in which we can see the influence of Prophet Mani and his disciples who made the codices, especially the Cologne Codex, and the way in which it is written. That is how the surah and the ayah pattern, that is the chapter and the verses pattern, was taken up from Mani's writers, and even Bible also is broken up into verses and chapters from them. Okay, we have the church. Let's look at the Manichaean church first of all. You have the leader. You have the leader of the church, below whom are the elect. Okay, who are the permanent converts, and then you have the hearers beneath them, right? And then you have 72 bishops and 360 presbyters who are the missionaries. So these missionaries are free at will to go in all directions and go ahead and establish churches. Now, when was this Manichaean church formed? It was well within the lifetime of Mani, between 240 and 270, when Shabur was ruling Iran as the second emperor from the Sassanians. So that is the time when this church was arranged, and that is how the missionaries spread as far as India, China, and to Rome and France. You must remember that the Bogomils, the Cathars of France, and the Paulicians all were influenced. I mean, they belong to the 12th century AD. They all were influenced by Mani's message, actually.
It
But
was actually a hugely influential religion, even though.
religion, but it
Yeah.
was very thinly populated because it was very elitist, because the
It,
membership to it was that you had to be very intelligent to understand it, because very selected few people would walk into paradise when the catastrophic war comes to an end, or the Kayama or the judgment day concept itself, and the manner in which it would take place, right? So that is primarily how the Islamic religion also organizes itself. Muhammad never sat on any throne or claimed any kingship, but then he sat on a pulpit, I think, which is called a minbar. I think we have minbars even today. People sit on a four-stepped minbar. The four steps stand for Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus, and the fifth step. So you have these four steps in the coin. Also, I think, Mel, you would remember, we
yes,
had
yeah.
coin. Yes. So we had the four steps in the pedestal. So
Hmm.
this prophet, claiming the culmination or occupying the peak, who has a complete knowledge of the Mosaic law, the principles of Abraham, the life of Noah, as well as the Injil or the Gospel of Jesus. So this is the person who is complete. So all the people before him were incomplete. The same thing Mani contended, that all the religions are incomplete, and he's putting all the pieces of the puzzle together, and he's making it complete by including Krishna, Buddha, Zoroaster, and Jesus. The same thing that Muhammad claims later, that he
Yeah.
is a man of Moses, he's a man of Noah, he's
I
a
just
man
want
of
to.
Abraham. Yeah.
I'm going to throw something else in the mix. This is a quote from a book called The Chronology of Ancient Nations, to do with Manichaeism. And it says, in his gospel, that is Mani's gospel, which he arranged according to the 22 letters of the Syriac alphabet, he says that he is the paraclete announced by Messiah, and that he is the seal of the prophets. Now,
Yes.
even in that just short quote, we see a lot of connections with Islam. Um,
Yes.
Possibly the reason why the Quran has got letters, these strange letters in which
In between, yes.
in between.
As I told you, in between the Syrio-Aramaic construction and the Arabic translation in the Abbasid period, we lost a lot of words, and those words are the ones which are floating between the verses of the Quran in different surah. And if you look at the 12 apostles that he had, this Satik, or he had someone called Rashet. Okay, so Muhammad also has, I think Murad can confirm this. Muhammad had promised 10 people paradise even before they die. Am I right or wrong? He had promised 10 people that yes, you would go to
Yes, it's called Al-Ashara Al-Mubashsharun Bil-Jannah, which is the 10 people that are promised paradise in
paradise.
Islamic tradition. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Murad, do you know that there are actually 12? Actually, he didn't mention the two because when he compiled the list of the 10 people, including Abdur Rahman, Zubair, Talha, Ali, Umar, Abu Bakr, Usman, tell me if I'm missing someone. Waqas, Saad bin Waqas. So,
Sad ibn Waqas.
yeah, Saad ibn Waqas. So these 10 people were there. You know why it is not 12, Murad? You know why it is not 12? Because the two people who have already gone to paradise. So Muhammad's 12 apostles are
Oh,
Khadija.
10 left. 10
Yeah,
left. Only 10 left.
10 left out. The two are already
Wow.
went to the places. The two people are Khadija and Waraka.
Waraq ibn
Oh,
Nawfal.
interesting. Wow.
Oh,
Waraka bin Nushel. Waraka bin Nushel and Khadija. Khadija, his first wife. So they have all taken their reserved seats. Or maybe it's not even Khadija. Maybe it's Bahira, his Christian Gnostic monk guru. We never know. So at least two people had already went away, Murad. So we have only 10 people who are alive, and these 10 people are picked up. And if you see the titles, Murad, Satik, or is given to the title is given to,
Abu Bakr.
right, Abu Bakr.
Abu Bakr
Rashid
Siddiq.
is, yeah, Umar al Rashid, the trusted one, goes to Umar. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it goes also to Harun. Harun,
Harun.
his
Harun
name is not Al
takes it on
Rashid.
himself. He
Yes, Harun.
takes
It's
it
a
on
title.
himself.
Yes, he puts it
He,
on.
he, he takes it upon himself. Al Mamun also takes it upon himself. Al Amin also takes it upon himself. So these titles were basically distributed to Muhammad's immediate followers, companions, derived from Manichaeism.
That was a
Hands
comment.
up. That's a high
Yeah.
five, because we, we're telling something very novel here for the first time on to the open world, that these people were nominated, given the titles. Rashid means the trusted one. Sadiq means the most truthful. Right. So each one, when they say Al Ghani, means the most honorable one, because Usman is Usman Al Ghani. Right. So each one has a title apart from their names and their kunyas. They have a separate title which was offered to them by none other than Muhammad himself, because he knows that these are the people who will go to paradise and will lead the other followers or to paradise as well, because Mani actually constructs his disciples profile for them by actually making them uh, the most ideal human beings around. And you should know that Muhammad also did something same, and he asks his followers to follow his followers after, in a case in which the judgment day comes after his death. And you know what happens? His followers fight among themselves. So the second generation is confused as to whom to follow in a case of a conflict. This is very unlike Manichaeism or Christendom, in which the followers did have disputes, but they didn't kill each other. They had debates. They enriched their religion. Let's say a debate between Peter, Paul, and James in 52 AD at the Jerusalem church enriched Christianity. It gave
Yeah.
them more volumes of gospels, and each one receives messages. They didn't go for each other's necks. Zubair and Talha are killed in the Battle of the Camel, post the Battle of the Camel, right? Ali is executed. Usman is executed by different factions of Islam. So this is confusing, because none of the Manichaean apostles go against each other. They actually divide the whole earth into different parts, and they carry a big group of those 360 presbyters along with themselves,
Can I
and they go to different parts of the earth.
just jump in? In many of Mani's letters, he starts them with "I, Manichaeus, apostle of Jesus Christ," and we
Yeah.
see that in the Quran, in that he was transferred to make it more Arabic. It was apostle of Allah, which was an Arabian god that was found in places like Petra. So we see just an ever so slight reuse of Manichaean ideas
Yes.
in
Uh,
Islam.
if you see, Mani actually claims that he was in the upper heavens listening to the message of Jesus. Let's see the Christology of Manichaeism. I'd like to put a short note here. Okay.
Yeah.
So Jesus is of three types here. Jesus has three phases. Okay, it is Jesus before, I mean, Jesus in his infancy and before his his baptism. Okay, and then you have Jesus who's baptized and who's a preacher, and then you have Jesus who is crucified and resurrected. Okay, and that person is called Jesus the luminous. So he's called Jesus the money, the last one which I told you. So this
Yeah.
money takes that luminosity, so he becomes, as the Greek verb says, manus, the person who pours out luminosity. Murad wants to say something.
I just want to say that these Gnostic ideas, they stemmed from the idea that Jesus had no body because he was just light. So that's why maybe Basilides he said that Jesus he was not crucified, but
So fine.
another one on the cross, and he mentions Simon of Cyrene, I guess, or Cyril. I'm not sure how to say it. The one who lifted the cross for him. So you see
What's the
the idea of being illuminated and stuff. This is very Buddhist and Hindu.
Can I just jump in there as well? Actually, with I
yes?
just there's a surah 3969, and it actually fits in perfectly with what both of you've been saying. And the earth will shine with the light of her Lord, and the book will be laid open before them, and the prophets and the witnesses will be brought, and judgment will be given between them with justice, and they will not be wronged. So the idea of luminosity coming from their Lord, but it doesn't say whether that's Allah or Muhammad, but
Mm.
it could be implied.
Yes, so if you look at what Mani is saying by the three parts of Jesus, is that in Manichaean cosmogony there are three levels of creation. The first creation in which God creates the heavens, the second creation is in which God creates the hells, and then there is the darkness, the regions of darkness, and then God creates the earth, which is half of full of light and half full of darkness. We know that the globe at any point in time facing the sun is bright, the other side is dark. I don't know how Mani comes to know of it, that earth is half dark and half light. Yes, Murad.
Could I just clarify this because I read about the ancient cosmology. It's basically flat Earth. So you have a flat Earth like a disk, and
Mm.
the sun is and the moon are small in size. So on a flat cosmology in the ancient world, you would have it half light and half dark. So you see here how many thinks about it, and this cosmology keeps going on. And down you have the seven hells which are down. So you keep going down to till the pit, and
Pit.
up you have vaulted heavens. So these heavens are solid, solid
Seven, seven.
firmaments, solid
Yeah. So
firmament heavens. You
yeah,
see,
firmament.
And
And the
actually,
seven levels of heaven again. Heaven also has seven
they
levels.
are they are
Murad,
firmaments like plates, like
plates.
the
and
bowl
and
that
just
you have. Yeah.
And
just to
and
jump in very quickly, and there's a long history to that idea, which goes back to the Sumerians in 5000 BC, which is in Iraq again. So just another connection.
yeah,
Yeah.
in Hinduism, in the Bhagavata Purana, they say that the hells are of seven types. So lowest one being the Patala, right? So you have the other levels ending with Sasatala, Rasatala, Talatala,
You have these
Patala.
also in the Talmud. If you know, you have also these in the Talmud and the Jewish writings. You have the gates of the seven gates, and you have the
Yes,
seven levels. And
that's exactly what I was trying to tell you. As to I earlier mentioned here that the Judean Talmud that was being written in Babylon, because you must remember that the headquarters of Manichaeism is Babylon. The leader of the Manichaeans had his seat at Babylon, and he all the other 12 apostles went to different parts of the earth. The leader, the successor of Mani, was sitting in Babylon, and again he also must have been executed by uh,
And
you know
and
by Kartir.
interestingly, Babylon is very close to Baghdad, which later became the seat for Islam under the Abbasids.
Islam did not want Babylon or Ctesiphon specifically, but they wanted the region somewhere in between. As Murad said, Abraham's altar may have been somewhere near that place.
Yeah.
and that makes us understand as to how the rectangular Kaaba-i-Zaradosht is sitting in Naqash-e-Rustam,
Yeah.
which is again by Kartir. So Zoroastrianism influencing Judaism and vice versa.
I'd
We are able to, yeah.
I'd like to just draw your attention to one of a passage from Mani's hymn to Jesus the King. I'm not going to read much of it, but there's a key verse where it says, "You have come with salvation, you've come with salvation." It repeats it three times and then says, "Light of the whole world." In Syriac, the word for salvation is forkan, right? And in Surah 8:29, you have, "O you who have believed, if you fear Allah, He will grant you forkan," which is salvation. It's often
Salvation.
translated as criterion, but it means salvation, and will remove from you your misdeeds and forgive you, and Allah is the possessor of great bounty. So we see there a similarity.
I just
And
wanna I
yeah,
just wanna add to this. I just
yeah,
want to add to this. Moses in the Quran, God says, we gave him the book and the Furqan. It's very clear. We gave him the book and the salvation
Salvation.
because he went out of Egypt with his people. So, of course, it just means that. I also want to add one thing I forgot. You said that the people had titles like Siddiq. Umar ibn al-Khattab, he had the title Al-Faruq. And
Al Farouk.
Faruqa, yeah, Faruqa in Syriac is the word given for Jesus, is like the savior.
Redeemer, yeah,
Redeemer,
the
yes,
redeem, the
Redeemer,
redeemer,
Redeemer.
the redeemer.
I,
Al Farouk is the redeemer.
can I just give you another sample from Mani's work? Hymn in
Yes.
Praise of Mani.
Hmm.
Um,
Yes.
it was originally written in Parthian, but it says this as it just fits with what you've just said. "You've come with salvation, O Savior of our souls, Lord Mani, Apostle of Light." So it's a similar idea.
Why we see Syriac being used, why we see Parthian being used, why we see Persian being used, let me tell you. Manichaeism was spread across Syria. So that was for the Syrian audience. We have the Parthian audience, which belong to the seven Parthic families, and the seven Falav families are the ones which used the language that was spoken in the media, or the erstwhile media, which is today known as the Fars. And today generally Zoroastrians are also called Farsis. We all know that. And we have Manichaean chronicles in Cantonese, in Chinese, Mandarin, as well as in Sanskrit, but most of them have been destroyed. And the vestiges, the last Manichaean temple is still there in China, in South China actually. They went to the ends of the world. So this concept of going to the ends of the world also was taken up by Islam. We know that Saad bin Waqas constructs a mosque in Guangzhou in 627 AD, and we have the Umayyads, or rather the Muawiyah's armies, or Amr bin Allah's armies from the Egyptian side. They go to the other corner of the world, that is Morocco, by defeating the Berbers, and Abdullah bin Zubair also fought there in 647, and they cross over and they reach Spain by 711 with the help of Musa ibn Nasr and Tariq bin
Nusayr,
Ziyad.
Nusayr,
Can
Nusayr,
I?
Ibn
Nusayr.
Nusayr.
Musa ibn Nasr and Tariq bin Ziyad. They reach Spain with their armies there. So they reached the corners of the world. So they were expecting the apocalypse to take place.
Just want to jump in with something else. A curiosity in the Quran is the uses of the phrase "Lord of the Worlds." It occurs 73 times in the Quran, and interestingly, I found the following in the Bima liturgy written by Mani, or one of his disciples. It says, "We bend our knees in deep veneration. We worship and praise the mighty God, the praise King, and Lord of the worlds of light, worthy of honor."
Yes.
According to
So
whose, so it's taken from
th-
Manichaean
thank you.
liturgies.
Thank you, Mel, for mentioning it, because my next point was that the Islamic method of washing themselves, the wudu, came from the Manichaeans, as well as the prayers and the prostration mechanism, the mechanism of salat, came from the Manichaeans once again. Yes, Murad.
I just wanted to add, when you say Faris in Arabic, and you have they were called before the Sasanians, they're the Parthians. In Arabic, you do not have the P, and the P gets to an F.
Mm,
So you have Khosru Parviz. In
Parviz.
Arabic, he's Khosru Farwiz. So you turn the V into a W, and you turn this into the P into an F. So maybe Faris is Parthian. This
Parthian.
I just wanted to add this. Maybe this is exactly it.
Mhm. And what is your views on the Islamic wudu and the salat coming from Manichaeism? What do you feel about it? Because the Manichaean Church initially had a hymnology in which you had to sing few songs. Those are the songs that are being quoted by Mel now. They were sung with a kind of an intonation which was alien to Arabic. So it was very much close to Syrians and the Parthians, that they could intonate every verse that their hymners had written for them. So to make up for that, we have the Islamic call to prayer, that is the Adhan, that was that is a bidah actually. It came up in the Abbasid period, if you know, because initially Bilal, when he calls out for prayer, is actually he shouts out lines. He doesn't sing them. I think Murad would accept it. The song, the intonation comes into it, the Islamic call of prayer, because from the hymnology of the Christians and the Manichaeans, of course, and maybe the Mandeans also. But the method of washing themselves, I had mentioned the three methods of washing yourselves after your sexual act is called husla.
Yes.
In the absence of water, you had to do something called tayammum, and
Yes.
in the presence of water you were supposed to do something called wudu in a mechanical fashion, where you wash up to your elbows, you wash yourselves up to your knees, and you wash the visible part of your face, to remove all the sand and dust from it. So these are the three methods of washing yourselves, and I believe that all these three methods of washing yourselves came from Manichaean, because the Manichaean church had a tub of water outside the hall before you enter into the holy of the holies, which is very similar to the tabernacle of Moses. Even that also had water outside it, and you were supposed to wash yourselves in this manner before you enter into the holy of the holies. You enter into the hall before the holy of the holies, and only the priest can enter into the holy of the holies. So again, it was a partitioned wall. Even the Manichaeans had a partitioned wall, which they again copied from the Jews. Again, we must mention that it's not like everybody picks from the Manichaeans. The Manichaeans also picked up a lot of ideas from Judaism. Even the Elkasites also had a partitioned holy of holies right in the middle of Palmyra. Yes, Murat.
I wanted to add that the Quran, I think it has nothing to do with the wudu that we know today. The Quran is subscribing the wudu, which is the archaic form that was in Judaism, the one you mentioned in the tabernacle, when you just wash your hands and feet and face. It's not very clear that you have in the Quran the other parts of the wudu. These other parts are Babylonian, and it has the Zoroastrian and Manichaean and all these influence that you just mentioned.
Yes,
So
yes,
the
yes.
Sunni it comes from there.
Mel, you know that the Judean priests, they used to wash the tips of their fingers. That's all,
Yeah,
because they are going to light the menorah. They are going to fan the Ark of the Covenant that was inside. They used to wet their feet, the palm and the sole. That's all. So
wow,
what Murad contends is true, because the
yeah,
method of washing yourselves up to the elbow, up to the your kneecap, and washing the most visible part of your face, then drying up yourselves completely before you enter into prayer, is completely Zoroastrian and Manichaean. And
yeah,
I think it's mostly from the Manichaean side, because the Elkasite upbringing that Mani had required utmost cleanliness, and they all wore white dress all the time, and that gives us an understanding as to how this Hajj or the Umrah uniform is completely white for everybody, as in order to bring about equality in everybody. You can be rich, you can be poor, but everybody has to wear the
yeah.
same kind of costumes.
I just want to just point out that in the Catholic Church, priests wash the tips of their fingers before they do the main ceremony with the
Yes,
Eucharist. So it's
yes.
but I didn't realize the Judaic origin to that. I would like to try something with the two of you, seeing as we have both of you. I would like to give you quotes, and I would like you to tell me whether they are from the Quran or whether they are from Mani. and maybe the people who are watching could actually maybe write down what they think it is, just to illustrate how similar they are. Is that okay with the both
Yes.
of you? So
Okay.
we got 4 different passages. I didn't shuffle them, but hopefully it'll be straightforward enough. Okay, so number 1, say, "Hail, new sun that has come forth with his light." What do we think?
I think it's from a Manichaean.
Yes, me too.
Yeah,
But it's very close to something I know in Arabic.
it is. Yeah. So yes, that's from the Manichaean Bema Psalms. But
You know why I concluded it to be Manichaean? Because the Lord of Islam, Allah, does not accept any kind of sonship, no matter how perfect being you are. So he doesn't accept any kind of a human relationship with you, except that of being of a master and a slave. So when you say that, hail, the new son of light, so I think,
oh, this
uh,
was sun with an sun though.
oh, okay.
Okay. Would that have?
I thought it's SON. Okay.
Okay, maybe
Okay.
I'll clarify. Okay, here's another one for you.
It's a
Number,
Okay.
pun.
yeah,
Okay.
it's a fun. So, number 2, uh, but those who reject faith and belie our signs, they shall be companions of the fire.
Very Quranic.
Well, it's Quranic because Manichaeans worship the fire. I know that Manichaeans worship fire, at least in the month of Rajab. That is why they have something called the Nakash Rajab, the place in which Kartir had his inscriptions. I think it is, Manichaeism aped after fire worship as well, in one side of the church.
So, are you
Okay.
saying that was Quran or Manichaeism?
It is Quranic. It is
Yeah,
Quranic.
it is Quranic. Here's number 3.
Okay.
Woe unto them, the children of the fire, for they send.
It's Quranic again because it's calling down curses upon Zoroastrian people.
No,
Uh,
it's Manichaean.
oh, got you
Ah,
50-50 on that one. That one is actually Manichaean.
Manichaean.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes.
So I think that's good because it kind of just makes the point. How about this next part? Woe then unto those who write down with their own hands.
hmm.
It's very general, but it could be Manichaean.
I think it's Manichaean again. I think so. I think it's
This
Manichaean.
it's from the Quran.
Oh, write down from their own hands. Oh,
Yeah,
so
but actually,
that is
it just illustrates the point how similar in style, and that's the point of that exercise.
that exercise. Mhm.
Yeah, so it's very similar. No,
The similarities or the derivations from Manichaeism into Islam extends from their methods of prayer, their catechism, their call to prayer, the methods of washing, their scriptures, their dress. Okay, and curiously, Manichaeans circumcised. I wanted to come to that point. Manichaeans circumcised themselves because they are a derivative from the Judeo Christian tradition, not from the Paul tradition.
Mm.
And you must remember that these people, like the Ebionites, they run down Paul of Tarsus because they consider Paul to be heretic because Paul was a Judeo Christian to start with, and he became a complete Christian, removing all Judaic practices out of Christianity. And today, if there is a huge gap of differences between Christianity and Judaism, it's because of Paul. We all know that. And whereas James and Peter, they subscribe to Judaic practices, at least in their synagogue or their initial church at Jerusalem. Whereas Thomas was, semi-Jewish and semi-Christian in his habits. Paul was completely new to think. Initially, he followed the Judaic habits, but then he gave it up completely. But Mani brings in a lot of habits vis-a-vis his lineage from the Ebionites and from the Qumran sect of the Essenes.
yeah.
Yes,
The
even in
Nasara.
even in the Islam today, they hate Paul so much. They always say that Paul corrupted the original message, and even the rabbis. You have this Rabbi Tovia Singer, if you know him. He does YouTube videos, and he likes the Quran more than Paul. So
Paul,
you
yeah.
see, because there is a big difference between what Paul says. He says the circumcision is of in the heart, and you do not need to circumcise yourself. So Paul is got out of the line of the Judaism.
And if you see the lineage of Muhammad through Bahira is from a Diocetian or a Nazorian sect. The Murad should confirm to us that we have the word Nasara in the Quran, isn't it? And we generally imply that to be Christian. But what type of Christian were the Nazareans? The Nazareans were brothers or parallels of Ebionites and the Elkasites. So all these things are from a Judeo-Christian milieu.
Excellent.
But you have many hypotheses about this. I've looked a lot into it, and there is a paper by A.J. Deuce, and he
Yeah,
says
yeah.
that yes, if you know it, it says is Nasara original or was it added later into the Quran? And it says that in the Talmud, it
Mhm,
refers to the Natsarim, so it
mhm.
may be a very old a word in the Talmud, or maybe Nasara. It means the Nazarenes, the
Nazarenes,
people of
Nazareth, the
Nazareth,
followers of
but
Nazareth.
yes, but they are not like a sect like the Ebionites. Maybe they're not. They're just the Roman way of saying things, because the Romans they used to criticize Christians, call them the Nazarenes, and the Quran it many times speaks as if it's Roman. It speaks
Mhm.
with this Roman language. Actually, when the Muslims say about the people of North Africa, they say they're Berbers or Barbars. This is close to barbarians, which the Romans called them
Barbaric. Yes.
barbaric, so or barbarians or barbar, and this is not their original name. So why are the Muslims always using this lingo, this
Uh,
Roman lingo? So maybe Nasara
mo-
is the Roman way.
Can I throw something else into the mix here?
yes.
I had a look at the teaching of Muhammad according to Sebius from the 660. So this is, our
640.
earliest our earliest reference to his actual teaching that I can find, and I compared it with the teaching of Mani found in the Coptic Psalmbook. Okay, looking at just comparing them, just see how similar they are. So let me start with Sebius's quote, and then we'll look at Mani's just to give you an idea. So Sebius says, so Mahmed legislated for them not to eat carrion, not to drink wine, not to speak falsely, and not to engage in fornication. So we have one, two, three. I'll make that four things. Okay. In the
Yes.
Coptic Psalmbook, just to compare it, it talks about that we lie not. So that's one of their prerogatives, that we lie not, and that fits in with Sebi's not to speak falsely. So that's similar. In this Coptic Psalmbook, it talks about that we eat no flesh, and that fits in with Sebius's phrase not to eat carrion. It also talks about that we make ourselves pure, and it's interpreted as meaning chastity, and that fits in with not to engage in fornication. Now, it's not a perfect match because there's no reference to wine there, but you can see there that it's 75% similarity between the teaching in the Manichaean book and Sebius's depiction of what Muhammad taught.
Yeah. And I'd like to make one more observation. Murad wants to say something.
I just wanted to say that you have this prophet also Mazdak, and I've read a paper in
Yeah.
Arabic
Yeah. Yeah.
about Mazdak and how similar he is to Muhammad. Mazdak was the first like communist, and I think Bala
Proto-communist.
knows this more.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
He
this
was
part,
he was the late Sasanian figure of the 6th century, early 6th century, and he brought in a lot of reformation in the Zoroastrian society, which was more of clergy. It was more of clergy and dominated kind of a society in which the peasants or the traders or the artisans were not having their rights. So Mazdak was a kind of a Zoroastrian reformer. Who tried to overthrow the clergy, and was quite successful with the help of the support from Kabot or Kabot, which is Emperor
Kavad,
Kabot. Kabot. So I think the influence of Mazdakism on Islam is another topic for another day. I'd like to mention one more very important thing. The Manichaeans believed in baptism. and they baptized. There was baptism in the Manichaean church, which is unlike Judaism and which is unlike Islam. Why Islam did not take up baptism is something Murad has to answer for us. But then why Manichaeism people took up baptism is something which I will answer now. Uh, One, they believe that John the Baptist is their prophet from the Elkasite origin of money, Elkasite upbringing of money. Second, you need a water source near you. It's as convenient as that to tell whether God told you to baptize or not to baptize. Okay, you must remember that the Manichaean origin is from the Euphrates and Tigris basin. So you have a lot of water there, so you can baptize people there at different levels of baptism. There were different types and different levels of baptism in the Manichaean church. And so Christianity and Manichaeism have that similarity, as against the Jews don't like baptism. And I don't know why Islam did not pick up baptism. It is one of the questions that keeps rankling in my mind. Murat.
I have no clear answer. I don't know why, but I remember that Gabriel Sauma, when he read the names in Aramaic, he says that the name Abu Bakr, it
Mm.
means the baptized.
Oh,
So this is important to look at. And
so the father of
maybe,
baptism, Abu Bakr, is father of baptism. Is it like that?
no, the baptized. But if you read Abu Bakr only in Arabic, it could mean Abu Bakr, father of the Virgin.
Father
You
of the Virgin.
see, this is when it got Arabized. So I don't know. Maybe they substituted the baptism with wudu. Maybe this is the case.
The other possibility might be that there might have been a move to try and make themselves distinct from the Christians. You know, if you think about the early 700s, where they had an iconoclastic phase, they were trying to distance themselves from the Byzantines. Maybe that was part of the same notion.
Um,
Maybe, sorry, just the last thing. If maybe these people they were trying to get to the religion of their father Abraham as much as possible. So they are throwing away anything that's new. Maybe that was the idea to try to get back to the original monotheism. So and it had no baptism, of course.
Yeah.
Bala?
and yeah, and actually, what happens is Islam not taking up baptism is actually because of the Nabatean background from which it comes up. Nabateans did not practice baptism, as far as I know. The pagan Arabs, that is Abu Sufyan and the other part of the Hashemites, who all were working for the Ghazanites again, they never practiced baptism. Whereas the Christian Ghazanites themselves, the king himself, the royal family itself underwent baptism, be it the Lakamid Nestorian Christians or the Ghazanites. I think it was more of an elite habit even among the Christians. I don't think even common Christians underwent baptism at that point in time. It was baptism elite privilege,
I
maybe.
wouldn't think so. I would have thought it was a universal practice among Christians. Now, I've never
Uh,
heard. I know in the contemporary world, I know in the Amazon at the moment,
mhm.
there is a movement where there have been generations of Christians who have not baptized, and I think the reason why is seems to be that they are trying to accommodate to the beliefs of the people, and they don't want to be kind of judgy and pushing their Christian practices on the locals. But maybe there's certain considerations like that that might be a factor.
But yes, Murad. Uh,
I want to maybe direct this in a different direction. I want to ask Bala, does he know about the coins of the Abbasids? Because I read something in Arabic and I cannot confirm it because it's too radical. But it says that the last Sassanian
mhm.
kings are actually the first Abbasids, and they read what's on the coins, and it's not 100% Arabic. If I read the coin of Harun al-Rashid, I cannot read everything about it. It's very strange.
Because
When they read it in the Manichaean script, it
okay,
makes sense, and
okay.
actually it gives you the name Khosrow the Second.
Mhm.
So I want to know, what does Bala think of this? Is Harun al-Rashid Khosrow the Second? And the other people, is Abu Bakr Kavad is Omar Khosrow one, you see, and is Mazdak Muhammad. So you see, this is a twist. I don't know what Bala thinks of this.
I think those people remodeled and refashioned their lives after the previous great men that had preceded them, and they modeled their lives and their lifestyle according to that. One might be inclined to think about, there is a book called, I mean, we'll be putting all our sources. I'll be putting all the sources that I'm referring from in the comment section. A proglonema to the history of Islamicate Manichaeism. There's a book like that. Okay, I think if I'm not wrong, it's from John Reeves, I think. Uh, you should know, Murad, that the Abbasid Caliph Harun al-Rashid quelled Zoroastrianism completely. If you look at the Arabian Nights, the story of the Arabian Nights, there are a lot of instances in which his own courtiers were Zoroastrians in closet. So he raids their houses, he burns down the books, and there are these Zoroastrian tattoos that they have at the back of their legs and and their backs and their lower backs, which they hide all the time. Okay, but when they do their wudu, it gets exposed in one instance, and he orders their execution, and he raids their homes to find them bringing up fire. So even early in the morning, they used to check out which house has a particular kind of smoke coming out, because they used to add all these perfume things into the fire that they used to worship early in the morning. So I think I'm inclined to think that there is a more Zoroastrian Manichaean influence, and maybe they were taking revenge for the what all persecution the Manichaeans underwent under the hands of the previous Zoroastrian Sasanian dynasty. Yeah, so it makes some sense somewhere, but these are things that require a lot of research. It might even take a lifetime, because they have become so obscure over a period of time, especially Manichaeism has become so obscure that it is like, what do you say? It's very difficult to find out, especially from the kind of geography that we are in and the place where it actually happened. We need to do some archaeological digs there in Iran or Iraq for that, and those places are no more accessible to us.
Yeah.
Yes, I wanna just, Mel, I will just add this.
Yeah.
I was looking at the coins of Khosrow 1, and I found that it has the word Allah on it. So you see, it had Allah, and it also had the Zoroastrian fire. So you see, it may have come from here. And also,
Interesting.
if you look at the coin of Abdullah ibn Zubair, you will see that his name was not Abdullah ibn Zubair on the coin. It was Abdullah Zampilan. It's written Abdullah Zampilan. And Volker Pop, he is the famous numismatic. He says that means it comes from Zumbil. It comes from this part of the word Kabulistan or Zabulistan, which is
Zabulistan, which is in Afghanistan today.
yes. So actually, the paper I was reading about the last Sasanian Empire and the first Abbasids, it thinks that Baghdad was actually in Central Asia. It was in the place of Maru, where Abd al-Malik ibn
Marv, Marv,
Marwan, Marv, Abd
Marv, Marv.
al-Malik ibn Marwan
And
came from
Marv is the
this.
birthplace. Marv is the birthplace of the Abbasid revolution.
Yes, so maybe this was the original Baghdad because they did not find any libraries burned in Baghdad, Iraq. So maybe
Yeah.
this was the original
Oh,
Baghdad. So I'm just putting this on the table. I don't have
okay.
much on it.
I think at this point it's probably a good place to stop.
Yes.
Um, and maybe just to wrap up, we started out looking at Manichaeism, and I suppose some of the material I wouldn't have heard before. Um, I had an idea that Manichaeism may have been a foundation stone, maybe a blueprint, a component in the formation of Islam. What is your take now that we've looked at the big picture in terms of how much of a role do you think it played in the creation of Islam that we know today?
Me or Bella?
Um,
Um, uh,
Bala, do you want to go first, maybe?
yeah. As a conclusion, I just feel that Manichaeism had was very big at that point in time, and today it might not seem very significant, but I think I would go for a safe 30 or a 40% of influence on Islam, present day Islam.
Okay. And Murad, what do you make
Uh,
of it?
I think that I still have the opinion that Islam was basically a Christian heresy, but the Manichaean elements and the Zoroastrian, these were more in the tradition, not in the Quran. The Quran had more of a heretical Christian taste, more than the Manichaeans, and you have direct quotes from the Apocrypha and stuff.
Yeah.
So the Manichaeism is stronger when it comes to the traditions more than the Quran, I guess.
Yeah. My take on it is that it was the philosophy that underpinned the whole movement. It's formed the stitching between the Jewish and Christian ideas and many other Zoroastrian ideas. Without it, there was no sort of direction overall to Islam. So I think it helped to provide that basis. And the content then comes from other sources, as you mentioned, particularly the Christian heresy. And I think the Jewish element fits in as well with that, without it being necessarily contradicted.
I think the most important thing Bala got today is the idea that Mani had these 12 like apostles and Al-Ashra Mubashirun, which is the 10 of Muhammad, and there is also that there are only the 10 left. I really like this part.
You know, before the video, I had been looking for any reference to Jibril among Manichaeism. I couldn't find it. So for me, the big one was the fact that you could confirm that Jibril was
Was
from.
the heavenly twin of money.
Yeah, that was epic, because that really just confirms the lineage there.
Can I just add something? It's crazy. I read in the book of A.J. Deuce, which is the Great Leap Fraud Part 2. He says that maybe Gabriel of Sinjar is Gibril.
Sinjar, Jibril.
Is Gibril.
He was the physician of Khusro Parvez, and he was the secretary of Shireen, the Queen Shireen, and they were the guardians of Nestorian Christianity when before everything went haywire.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
maybe he was a person. He was not an angel.
He was
could
not an
be.
angel.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thank you.
So
Oh yes,
for me
go ahead.
the last one, for me the takeaway from this is that money was a profound living influence on Muhammad and all the other seven contemporary prophets of Muhammad. Yes, thank you.
Well, I suppose there's probably one last comment. Maybe is who was the seal of the prophets? Was it Mani or was it Muhammad?
That is for our commentators to comment in the live chat.
Absolutely. Listen, thank you both. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm sure our viewers will really appreciate all the hard work. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.